Hello YouTubers, and today I'm finally reviewing this, which is the Deadly Assassin set. Now the reason I didn't pick this up initially is because I didn't think it was worth £22. And to be honest, I'm still debating it whether it being worth the new price of $16.99. The only reason I've got this now is because this is a late Christmas present of my sister, so thank you to her. But yeah, we'll take a look at this set and we'll see, what it is. So, for the first off, all these figures, 90% of them are exactly the same. The only difference is, obviously, the colours and the head sculpts and that themselves. So, let's start off with the Fourth Doctor. So, yeah, now, unfortunately, this Fourth Doctor is using that Alderaan head. Kind of. Because here's the thing. This is actually a new head sculpt. A lot of people say, oh, it's just the hairpiece and that's new with this one. No, it's the whole head sculpt. Even though the face bit is the same as the previous one, the actual figure, the actual head itself had to be a new sculpt. And the reason for that is because the original Fourth Doctor head, the one that was released in the first wave of Classic Series figures back in 2008, that head sculpt was modular. And what I mean by that is basically the hair was a separate piece. So that would mean that basically you could just swap the hair piece and have, different hats or something else and that on there. And that is also how the original Terror of the Zygons prototype figure was done. It was just a different hairpiece with a different hat on there. Whereas this is not a modular piece, unfortunately. Which means that every time Alderaan wants to use this face, it has to be a new head sculpt, unfortunately. So, yeah, unfortunately it is a new head sculpt, and it just doesn't look like Tom Baker. What it looks like is, it looks like a knockoff of a character options figure. It honestly looks like a bootleg. It just looks off and weird. Particularly from the side, isn't that, as well? But yeah, it just really just does not look like Tom Baker. And I don't know whether that's a scaling issue or not, because I think what Alderaan doesn't seem to understand is that when you have a really highly detailed, render, you're going to lose a good, 70-80% of that detail when it's then scaled down to a 5-inch figure. And yeah, basically, the head sculpt that was originally done was not done by Alderaan. This one was, and yeah, which is why it's so bad. For some reason, it has a sort of grey wash to the hair and that as well, which I don't know why, because Tom never went grey in his entire life. His hair went white, but that wasn't until like the 1990s, late 90s even, and it certainly shouldn't be in the bloody mid-70s, well, just past there. So yeah, why it is here, dunno. The rest of the figures just reusing the standard sort of Time Lord body figure and that on there, which, yeah, the robes and that are fair enough. The problem is, on the collar, nicely painted on the front side, not painted on the back side. Why? Why is it not painted on the back side? Like, honestly, I seriously don't know why this is the case. Like, bearing in mind, this is the same year we had the Sixth Doctor figure finally get a release, in a B&M wave. So if you can do that, and if you can do the Fourth Doctor scarf, you can carry on the paint for a few lines and that round the back. There's no excuse for it. Now the main thick line goes all the way around the back, but so why not the thinner lines? Otherwise it just looks a bit odd, particularly when you're looking at it side on like that and the paint just suddenly stops. Yeah, it's just a bit odd, this figure, to be honest with that. Now, the Time Lord seals, I should say, themselves, the paint apps are correct on it, but the sculpt underneath is technically wrong. So yeah, it's kind of just painted over, and that in some lighting it looks a little bit odd, but most of the time it actually looks pretty good, so I don't blame on that part. And yeah, the emblems do look pretty nice, and it is nice that they are nicely detailed there. Why we can have that yet not a simple paint all the way around, who knows. It also has the problem of, for some reason, again, particularly you can see it with the hands and that as well, why is Tom so pale? Why is Tom so pale? When you take him next to Bernard Hawthorne here, you know, where the two of them, you know, have around about the same sort of skin tone, why is Tom so pale? This was a problem with the Terror of the Zygons on as well. He was just really, really pale, and I really don't know why. Which is a shame. So, yeah, the rest of the figure is just, you know, your standard Time Lord figure, which is nice enough. It is worth pointing out that inside here in the legs, in fact, if I get a torch to show you, inside the legs here, if I can get at the right angle, you can see the boot actually is actually sculpted in there for, like, Time Lord boots. But there is no knee joint, which I'm perfectly fine with because it would be completely pointless in this figure. And also, it's another way to help it sort of stand up and that a bit more. So, yeah, but the fourth Doctor figure, so disappointing in this. A so disappointing figure. The colours themselves are really rubbery, so they're not going to break or snap, unlike the Dapol ones. But, yeah, just a disappointing figure here. But let's move on to the highlighted figure, and the best figure in the set, which is the Bernard Hawthorne figure, Chancellor Goth figure here. And yeah, this one, much better. Their head sculpt, for one, if we take a look at the head sculpt, really good head sculpt here of him. Nothing really to say about that, except they've given him sort of a white grey hair sticking out. Why? At this point in his life, he's blonde. You know? Like, did Aldebar watch the behind-the-scenes interview, see that he had grey hair, and thought, oh yeah, he must have had grey hair in the story? Like, why is it with him and Tom that they have... Like, Tom less so, but why do he have grey hair? It should be blonde. It should be blonde. Even when he's got the sort of cowl on, and that the hair you can see is still clearly blonde. It has a sort of sheen that they've put into it. Maybe a slight sheen in that they've used in Nick's. But, yeah, the hair itself is clearly blonde. So, yeah, why they've done it this sort of grey colour, I'm not sure. You got the seals and that, and again, these bangs and that have been just painted on and that. And again, it looks much worse on here than it does the Tom. Because, yeah, here you've got, obviously, red and gold, and, oh, it's much more obvious than that where that stops. Particularly when you can see, because of how translucent it is, you can actually see the red and that from the other side and that bleeding through. So, yeah, just shame, disappointment all around. The rest of it, though, is painted really nicely. You can see all the little, like, patterns and that going around here, and then even... Well, it's not a belt piece, but like the sort of V-shape bit in the middle there, which is also painted. Unfortunately, you can only see a teeny tiny bit of it because it is glued down. And, yeah, even at the top there, there's a bit of brown there, just painted just between there. So, yeah. Now, unlike Tom, who's bare hand, Chancellor Goth is wearing gloves, and they have the little communicator sort of just painted on the hand themselves, on both hands, actually. So, yeah, the arms, though, on these feel very wobbly. These are really loose, wobbly joints. So, yeah, be wary about that. They are particularly wobbly, which is in because the rest of the figure actually feels pretty solid. And that it's just these arm joints here, the swivel joints at the arms here, feel really rubbery and really loose. So, I should also mention, I do like the wash that the capes and that have. Tom doesn't really have one as much and that, but they do vary, but it does have a wash that brings out all the sort of wrinkled and that details, and the sort of brings out the sort of different tones and that. So, yeah, that's nice. So, definitely the highlighted figure, mainly because, you know, he has a head sculpt that actually matches the actor. Speaking of which, who the fuck is this? No, seriously, who the fuck is this meant to be? Because it sure as shit ain't Borusa. This is not Borusa in any incarnation. So yeah, this is not was it Agnes McKay? Yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yeah, what this is just reusing that original Time Lord head from the incorrectly called Series 4 figure, even though it's a Series 3 figure. So yeah, actually using this head sculpt from the Time Lord from the flashbacks in Sound of Drums. So yeah. Now, this, everyone, a lot of people say, kind of take the piss out of it, but the thing is, this is something we call false advertising. Like, completely false advertising. This is not what is said to be on the box. Because on the box, it does actually say Lord Borusa. This is not him. This is not him in any sense of the capacity. This is not, the 70s, 80s, heck, it's not even the 1990s where you could, just get away with. Like, now, just like, you expect it, even to vaguely look like it. But yeah, unfortunately, because Tom would have to account for having new moulds made because the hairpiece isn't a separate piece, so the whole head would have to be remade, even though it's using the front section of previous figures. Yeah, why? Why couldn't we afford the third head sculpt? I don't know why. Because we've had ones in the past where we have had 3, new head sculpts. So, yeah. In fact, last year, the only new sculpting we have from last year is on the Daleks, actually. The Daleks had more new sculpting than anything else, with new dome lights, new eye stalk on these ones and that, and on the, I think the Renegades, or they can't remember. But yeah, and also this piece here. So yeah, I don't know if that took away from the budget or what, but yeah, if you were going to do this, then don't have Borusa. If you can't afford to do Borusa, then don't do Borusa, because this is not Borusa in any shape or form. It's just not. Now, this is called the Deadly Assassin set, so, if we can't afford to do Borusa, we've got to reuse some sculpts. What figure could we do from the Deadly Assassin? I wonder. Oh, I know! How about a re-release of the Peter Pratt Master figure? Yeah, this is another case of, basically, Earthshock syndrome, where the most iconic thing, probably, from the story, isn't presented in this 3-pack named after the story. So yeah, if you remember, a few years back in the Earthshock set, we had 2 androids and a 5th Doctor, but no Cybermen. Here, it's called the Deadly Assassin set. We've got no Master included. So yeah, I know a lot of people were disappointed by that. Plus, it would have gave the set a variety because, yeah, basically having the same figure 3 different times, like what we did the previous year back in 2022, where we had 3 versions of the 8th Doctor, 3 versions of the 10th Doctor, but at least those were different figures, less so the 10th Doctor, but, at least, they used different parts. This is literally using the same, 90% the same figure 3 times, only difference is head sculpts and paint apps. That's it. And 2 of them have nearly the same paint apps anyway. So yeah, it's the same. The rest of Borusa is really nice in the sort of purple get-up and that, with his sort of pattern of his robes and that painted on there. It does carry round to the back as well, though some of the underside here is cut off, unfortunately, slightly, though it is covered a bit by the robes and that themselves. Again, he has less so than the others, but he does still have loose arm syndrome, communicates and that on the side. And with this one, because of how dark it is, the purple lines and that, which again are not painted on the back, on this one you can get away with that because there's barely a difference in that between the 2 of them. If you look at the front bit there and the back bit there, not a huge amount of difference. So, yeah, but honestly, yeah, I would like this set more if it had a Peter Pratt Master figure instead of that. I would like it more because this is just a standard Time Lord figure. Now, the reason I did want this set at all, because otherwise I wouldn't be bothered at all about this set, the only reason I had any interest is because I don't have that original Time Lord figure release. Which really should be your only reason for picking this set up on that. So, yeah, there's little to no reason to pick up this 3-pack and that at all. So yeah, taking a quick look at the box and that here. Unfortunately, someone put a sticker and that over there, so it covers up some of the information there, though most people don't care about it. It is made of that thicker card, so, you know, that's nice. It makes it more sturdy. And, yeah, it just has a kind of sort of blue inlay in that. And it is the ones where they're vacuum packed and bubble sealed. But, yeah, if you are like me, then you can, if you cut along the bottom, if I'll show you here, if you cut along the bottom here with a knife, you can then basically just be able to put the figures back into their box, which I will be, and probably, I'm going to be honest, probably never opening again and that. And to answer the question, is this worth, $16.99? I don't know. If you want Time Lord figures, particularly if you want them for customization and that, then I'd say it's worth it for that. But in terms of the figures themselves, I mean, the Borusa is just not Borusa. Goth is definitely the best figure in there, despite the grey hair and that, and obviously the collar and that paint not going all the way around. Just to show you, there you go, that all back in there now, and you'd never know, if I put them in the box actually, you'd never know they were out of the box. But yeah, for that I would say so, but it is very likely that these will probably get another price drop, and that at some point obviously stocks will vary, but yeah, you can see there, it looks like they've never been out of the box. But yeah, unless you want Time Lord figures for customizing and that, then I'd say if you've held on the fence for now on them, I would continue doing that personally. Now, in terms of the Dalek sets, which have also gone down to $16.99, I would get them. I would say, particularly the new suit set, I would still say it was worth it at that price. But this, it's like, the thing is, apart from unless you want Time Lord figures, like just more generic Time Lord figures, it's really hard to recommend it because, as I said, it's not Borusa. That doesn't look anything really like Tom Baker. So yeah, you got Chancellor Goth there basically. So, but there we go, people. There we go.